Procrastination can be an art form. Sure, you can wear those pants one more time before doing laundry. Your gas tank is on E, but hey, you're not too far away from home. Getting life insurance? Okay, maybe you shouldn't put that one off. It's easy to deal with, though. Just use SelectQuote. SelectQuote does the shopping for you. They match your individual needs with highly rated insurance companies to find you the best fitting policy at surprisingly affordable rates. Go to SelectQuote.com now, and within minutes, get your free quote. SelectQuote.com. They shop, you save.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Inside Politics. I'm John King in Washington. Thank you for sharing a very busy day with us. Anxiety as America anticipates a verdict soon out of Kenosha. It is day 3 now in jury deliberations in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. The defense is again asking for a mistrial, that after a dispute over crucial video evidence. Plus, a very dramatic day of testimony in Glynn County, Georgia. One of the 3 men charged in the killing of Ahmaud Arbery was back on the stand this morning, facing cross-examination. And today, you might call it a split screen up on Capitol Hill. Democrats say they are close to passing the giant Biden rewrite of the social safety net, while Republicans defend or shrug off a colleague's violent tweet, and they vow retribution against the Democrats who censured him. And we begin right there with House Republicans and a just wrapped up conference from their leader, Kevin McCarthy. The top House Republican says he spoke to former President Trump this morning from the golf course. And he says the Democrats should worry about what happens if Republicans retake the majority after next year's midterm elections. The top takeaway, as Republicans ask you to put them back in power, there will be no punishment. No punishment for one of their own, Congressman Paul Gosar, for posting a violent video in which his animated character kills a female Democratic colleague. Let's get straight up to CNN's Mano Raju up on Capitol Hill. Mano, a very busy morning and a lot of discussion about essentially civility in the House or lack thereof.
Yeah, and it's very clear that this is not going to end anytime soon. Kevin McCarthy, the Republican leader, just indicating to reporters that those 2 members, Paul Gosar and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who became the first members to be stripped of their committee assignments by a majority party in the House, that he would essentially put them back in those positions in the new Congress if he were to win back the House majority next fall. Now, the question also is, what will Republicans do to retaliate? McCarthy reiterating that there would be retribution against Democrats and potentially remove them from their committee assignments in the aftermath of what happened to Paul Gosar yesterday in the House. Now, when I had a chance to ask the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, about concerns she may have that Republicans may retaliate against her members, she pushed back. Are you at all comfortable with the likelihood that if Republicans take the majority, they may retaliate against Democrats, remove them from their committees for any perceived or even serious offense that may happen?
Is the inference that I draw from your question that we should have not censured Mr. Gosar for his shameful behavior for fear of something the Republicans might do in the unlikely case that they might win the Congress? Even if they do, I don't expect that that's the case, and I'm doing everything in my power to make sure it isn't. Not just because of Gosar, but because of our democracy, which they are undermining every single day.
She also made a point that just 2 Republican members voted to censure Paul Gosar and remove him from his committee assignments yesterday. Those 2 Republicans, Liz Cheney and also Adam Kinzinger, of course, those are the prominent Trump critics. 2 of the 10 who voted to impeach Donald Trump. The other 8 who voted to impeach Donald Trump voted against this measure. Some of them were concerned that it simply went too far. They said it would set the precedent that they didn't want to set to remove people on committee assignments. And I tried to ask the Speaker directly, why not just focus on the issue of censure instead of removing Gosar from his committee assignments? She didn't address that directly, but made clear she has no regrets.
She has no regrets. Mano Raju, appreciate you kicking us off live. Busy day on Capitol Hill. With me in studio to share their reporting and their insights, NPR's Claudia Grisales, Olivier Knox of The Washington Post, and The Wall Street Journal's Catherine Lucy. It's interesting to come out of this. The Speaker Pelosi saying we're not going to let threats of future action sway us. But more interesting to me was Kevin McCarthy, who is just completely unapologetic about this. He answers the question. He spoke to Donald Trump this morning. He hugs Donald Trump every day. He says he's one of his friends. Donald Trump is the foundation of their party, and he is a liar about the American election. And he says, Mr. Gosar, he doesn't believe this was appropriate. The thing that gets me, Claudia, is that Gosar took the video down. McCarthy used that to say he took it down. Let's move on. Minutes after being censured by the House, he reposted the video, which is flipping the bird, frankly, at the Democrats who censured him, but also at his leader, Kevin McCarthy.
Right. This is just him showing once again that he's unapologetic, that he has no regret, no remorse, even after this very, very difficult day on the House floor, all centered over the first time that he put out this video. So it just shows the direction this party goes in, which is Trump remains a center, and it's hard charging ahead in terms of whatever he blesses is good for them.
And welcome in their midst Mr. Gosar. McCarthy said he would probably get new committee assignments if they took back the majority, who, in addition to this violent video, has said and done other things, including associating with nationalists, white nationalists and the like. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who posts online the phone numbers of members who voted for the bipartisan infrastructure bill, at least one of whom is now receiving death threats, and other members who have done things beyond the pale that if we did at our workplace, we would be fired for.
Right. One of the interesting things about this is that we're sort of seeing a shift of what counts as mainstream inside the Republican Party. So you've had this month-long effort to whitewash the January 6th riot, insurrection, pick your term. You now have Kevin McCarthy saying he'll put Congresswoman Greene back on committees, Congressman Gosar back on committees. And what that says is these are not fringe elements of the party, which of course they're not, because as you say, Donald Trump is the center of gravity of the GOP right now. But it's really important to consider that as we describe the sort of the possibility that there, Nancy Pelosi says it's unlikely that the Republicans will retake the House. History says otherwise. Current polling says otherwise. And so, we should be prepared for what that means when those members are seen as mainstream in the Republican Party.
Mainstream, and to be moved up into committee assignments and then up through seniority and all that. Moments ago, Kevin McCarthy, listen here, says we're not the problem.
This isn't about threats, but it's about holding people accountable. I think the majority is going to have to approve any of those members on the committees of which they could serve. So yes, we hold our members to a high standard.
The first part is about, what happens to Democrats getting committee assignments if the Republicans are in charge. I'm not even going to give it a second. I'd like to give it a second. I'd like it to be a fair debate. But the last part is, so yes, we hold our members to a high standard. When the Republican leader of the House lies repeatedly, why should we listen to anything he says? He has not held any of his members to any standard.
Well, as everyone has said today, it is Trump's party. It is holding the party to Trump's standards, really. And McCarthy's making clear he's going to continue that. And the way a lot of Republicans see it is they have a lot of support in their base, out and around the country, in a lot of these districts, for the moves that they're making right now. And so there's really no evidence they're going to turn away from any of this rhetoric or from embracing some of these most extreme members. But what is interesting, though, is we are at a moment where a lot of other things are really trending positively for Republicans in terms of, the president's polling is down. Inflation is up. It gives them a very, big talking point heading into the next, the midterm elections. But the focus in the last couple of days has really all been on these conflicts within the party, within the party.
Which begs a giant question, and a question that's very difficult for us in our business, because this is Kevin McCarthy yesterday. This came up today, too. He walked to his press conference, and he made that point. He said in 1 year of Democratic governance, gas prices are up, inflation is up, Americans are having a harder time, which is a political argument. Again, a Democrat out there can say, hey, wait a minute, it's COVID. Hey, wait a minute, Biden can't control that. I get that. But that's in the normal scope of political argument, what Leader McCarthy came in to make. Yesterday, he did something similar, and the first question was about Gosar, and this was his reaction.
Did you listen to anything we said? Did you listen to anything the American public said last Tuesday?
This is the hard part. I'm trained as a wire guy. You're trained as a wire guy. You worked at the wires. You're a great reporter up on Capitol Hill. We are trained to cover all sides or cover both sides of a story. But does he deserve us to listen to him at all on policy when the foundation of the party is we love Trump? He was at a big fundraiser just at the beginning of the week. Trump is still lying every single day about the election, endorsing candidates who back the big lie. When he won't clean up weed out or at least punish extremism, stalking right in his own conference. Should we listen to him on anything else when he won't clean up his mess?
Listen to him or trust him. Two different things. As long as people have their hands on the levers of power, ignoring them is something you do at your own peril. The question about the inflation stuff, the bad news for Biden, the bad polling, and the rest of it is a standalone story. You don't actually need Kevin McCarthy's words about it. These are observable phenomena in the real world. So, of course, you have to listen to him, in part because, some of the threats that he and other Republicans are making are about what they'll do if they retake the majority. You have to be aware of these, and you should inform voters that this is a possibility. So I think you absolutely have to listen. He didn't suddenly not become the Republican leader in the House, whatever you think of his hold on that particular power.
But certainly, John, I mean, the other thing that's going on right now in the party, the other real sort of tension with Republicans is the Republicans who voted in favor of the infrastructure bill, who are, being subject to threats. Some of them are getting, say they're getting death threats, and how the party is dealing with that. So you have, there's no space in the party right now for any, division or dissent, and really people voting for something that up until pretty recently was considered a bipartisan issue.
Right. The energy in the party is punish those who voted for something Joe Biden wanted. Do not hold accountable those who have done reprehensible things Donald Trump wanted until it was Joe Biden in the White House. To that point, it's interesting. We'll button up the conversation here, but the current chairwoman of the Republican National Committee, appointed by Donald Trump, this morning said Biden is the president. Said he won. She said that. And she said she still considers Liz Cheney to be a Republican, despite what the Wyoming Republican Party did. It'll be interesting to see if the former president takes issue with that. Everybody stand by. We're watching two very highly charged court cases across America today. Day 3 of jury deliberations in the Kyle Rittenhouse homicide trial. That's Kenosha, Wisconsin. And one of the men accused of killing the man jogging in Georgia, Ahmaud Arbery, takes the stand again today after testifying he acted in self-defense. We're live with the latest in both cases. Next.
Angie's List is now Angie, and caring for your home just got easier. Whether you need help with routine maintenance or a dream remodel, Angie makes it easy to see reviews, compare quotes, and connect with top local pros who can get the job done right. Plus, you can see upfront pricing and instantly book hundreds of projects. No phone tag, just the work you need done at a time that works for you. Angie's got your to-do list covered from start to finish. Book your next home project today at Angie.com. That's ANGI.com.
Carvana is the easy, no-hassle way to buy your next car. Their shopping experience is 100% online, so you can shop from anywhere. And with thousands of cars to choose from and customized financing, you can find the right car for the right price. Got questions? Carvana has friendly and knowledgeable customer advocates to help you every step of the way. And best of all, you can get your car delivered to your doorstep as soon as next day. So what are you waiting for? Buy your next car 100% online with Carvana.
In Georgia, the man who shot and killed 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery took the stand this morning, testifying in the defense's second day of presenting their case. Faith leaders are gathering outside that courthouse right now. One of the defense attorneys has repeatedly objected to black pastors showing up in the courtroom. CNN's Martin Savage is covering this trial, and he's live for us now in Brunswick, Georgia. Martin?
So, John, it was the continuation of the cross-examination by the prosecution to the testimony of Travis McMichael. Over and over, the prosecutor got him to admit two key points. Number one, that they didn't really say that they were going after Ahmaud Arbery that day to conduct a citizen's arrest. That's been a key point of the defense. And two, also got Travis McMichael to admit that initially when he told police of the altercation, he never said that Ahmaud Arbery grabbed the shotgun. But on the witness stand when he testified, he did say Ahmaud Arbery grabbed the shotgun. It's a conflict that was not resolved, but clearly points out to the jury there's a question on self-defense. Finally, though, the morning ended with a very dramatic moment. There was another witness on the stand talking about crime in the community when one of the prosecutors got up for cross-examination and said, "Do you believe that stealing, that someone deserves the death penalty in Georgia?" Instantly, there was an outburst in the courtroom from the defense. There's been a motion now for a mistrial. They say that characterization and that question was completely out of line. The judge is deciding over lunch. John?
Keep an eye on that one. Martin Savage, grateful you're on the ground live for us to track it as we go through these important developments. Let's bring in now for some conversation and analysis our legal analyst Elliot Williams and Caroline Polisi, a federal and white-collar criminal defense attorney. Caroline, let me start with you. To Martin's point, one word used in a courtroom by one of the attorneys can get mistrial motions filed and all that. This morning, as we watched the prosecutor and her cross-examination, just a methodical take, one fact at a time, question by question. What was your impression?
Yeah, I thought she just dismantled Travis McMichael there on the stand, as you noted, systematically drawing out that prior inconsistent statement. That's what we call it as lawyers. And McMichael's attorney trying to, quote, rehabilitate him afterwards, just not happening. You know, McMichael's had a convenient memory recollection of some key details that he didn't have immediately after the event, one of which was a key to his self-defense claim, which is that now now he's stating that Arbery grabbed for his gun, that he feared for his life, and that, his life flashed before his eyes. He had a lot of tearful testimony on the stand yesterday. Where have we seen tearful testimony before of a man that brought a gun to a knife fight, if you will? I mean, in this case, he brought a gun to Arbery's jog. Really, really, really powerful stuff from the trial today.
And Elliot, jump in at that point. One of the questions here is for viewers who might not have been following the case closely. At the time, there was a citizen's arrest law in place in Georgia. It has since been amended and watered down significantly. But the defendants are trying to make the case that they thought there was this criminal in the neighborhood and they had the right to pursue. I thought one of the things the prosecutor did very smartly and, again, methodically today was, did you see a gun? Did you see a knife? Did he ever say anything threatening to you? To make the point that even if you thought you had this right to follow this person of whom you were suspicious, never was there anything that came to the threshold where use of force would be authorized.
Yeah, more importantly, John, what this exposes is why it's incredibly risky to put a defendant on the stand in any case. What you saw yesterday to many jurors and many people watching was, this guy, nice guy, soft-spoken guy in a suit, worried about safety in his community, out there trying to keep the community safe. What emerged today was an individual, number one, who clearly that the prosecutors poked holes in whether he had probable cause to be pursuing somebody in the neighborhood. Number two, his stories just don't line up. And then number three, that he had other alternatives. He could have gotten in the car and driven away, could have not pulled out the shotgun, and so on. All of those things are going to, number one, point to his credibility, and number two, point to the fact that he's just not defending himself, or at least of a situation of his own doing. So he really, I think they took a big risk by putting him on the stand, and it seemed like it might have backfired.
All right, we'll continue to follow that case. Let's move on to day 3 now of deliberations, jury deliberations in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. That is in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Our Shimon Prokopes is outside the courthouse there. Shimon, what's the latest?
So about 19 hours or so now, John, that the jury's been deliberating. We are getting some news from the courthouse now that the attorneys have gathered at the courthouse, both the prosecutor and the defense team with the judge. So we're waiting to get word on that. But obviously, we're just waiting. Everyone out here waiting for the jury to see if they're going to make their decision today. We've not heard from the jury today at all, following yesterday's request for that drone video and other video, which of course resulted in the defense team asking for another mistrial. I spoke to the defense attorney, Mark Richards, briefly this morning about that. He said they're still working on the motion. They're going to file it at some point, but they're waiting. Interestingly enough, John, he told me, Mark Richards has been practicing law here for many, many years. He told me that, so right now, where they're at in terms of the timing, that this is the longest he's had a jury out on any of the criminal cases he's ever tried, which I kind of thought was interesting. But like I said, everyone just waiting, and we'll see if we get any word from the jury today on if they're going to have any questions.
Shimon Prokopes, same as Martin Savage, grateful, good reporting on the ground and watching these trials play out. We'll come back to us if anything new happens. Thank you very much. Up next for us, House Democrats inching closer to passing the second big piece of the Biden first-year agenda. The House Speaker is promising there will be a vote on the president's rework of the social safety net soon. Speaker hopes that vote soon could mean as early as today, but not before it gets a key score that will determine whether or not it's fully paid for. Many members have said they want to see those numbers before they'll cast a vote. Our panel is back with us. And so, Claudia, let's get back to that. The Speaker wants to get this done. She wants to get this done tonight. Let's listen to her language earlier today. Apologies to America for bringing in the acronyms of Washington.
Those votes hopefully will take place later this afternoon. We'll get, again, the final CPO estimates later this afternoon, hopefully by 5 o'clock.
Congressional Budget Office, there are a number of members who they just want to make sure. The president says this will be paid for. The White House has already put them on notice, though the CBO is unlikely to agree with our assessment. There are some discrepancies of how certain policies would or would not generate money.
Right. This is a big, big moment for Democrats trying to finally clear this massive bill through the House chamber. And with all of the back and forth with the moderates in the Senate for the Democratic Party, it's going to be a key opportunity for the House Democrats to say, here's our model for this bill. Take it, leave it. We're done with it. And perhaps as early as this week, as early as today.
So the House would then send it over to the Senate. Assume that happens. I know we have to wait on some things. You're laughing at me. I know. Nothing can be assumed, but assume that happens. The House Democrats seem to be in the posture that we're going to move this over to the Senate, and then we'll see what happens. One of the things put in the House bill to get votes of some key moderates, most of them from the Northeast part, is so-called SALT, state and local tax deductions, that were taken away as part of the Trump tax cuts. Bernie Sanders on the Senate side says, nope.
I think it's bad politics. It's bad policy. The Democrats correctly have campaigned on the understanding that amidst massive income and wealth inequality, we've got to demand that the wealthy start paying their fair share of taxes, not give them more tax breaks. Bottom line here is we have to help the middle class, not the 1%.
If the Senate strips out paid family leave, 4 weeks of that, because Joe Manchin says he's not for it, and Bernie Sanders gets the Senate to strip out state and local tax deductions, then it goes back to the House, and what happens?
Then we'll have to see what they do. There's a number of members who, especially on SALT, a number of members whose votes are really contingent on keeping that in the bill. And so this becomes I was not laughing at you, just with you, but there's a lot of turns for this, as we all know, before it gets. There's still. I think the White House still remains optimistic. They think they're close. They certainly think they get it through the House before Thanksgiving, and they do think there's a path forward. But as we have seen, there are a lot of twists and turns, and in the Senate, any one member can really slow this whole process.
Even in the House, it's only three or four votes to spare. So anybody or in the House, if you have a couple of friends, you are kingmakers. And the longer this is on the vine, members have every right and every reason to say, I like this or I don't like that. That's the way politics works. Right. Another example, Senator Manchin, who gets a lot of attention because he's key on the Senate, there's a tax credit in there for electric vehicles, but it would only go to union shops. And so he says, when I heard about this, they were putting this in the bill, I went right to the sponsor and I said, this is wrong. This can't happen. It's not who we are as a country. It's not how we built this country. And the product should speak for itself. We shouldn't use everyone's tax dollars to pick winners and losers. Again, the longer it's on the vine, if you don't like something, you can stop it.
Sure. Nancy Pelosi's rewarding the progressives by having a vote on this at all. She's rewarding the moderates by having things like the SALT provision in there. And then she's kicking it all over to the Senate and saying, Godspeed, Chuck Schumer. Bernie's, if you watch the Republican messaging on this, Bernie has a point about it being bad politics. Right. Republicans have seized on the fact that this is one of the largest, this tax reduction would chiefly go to the rich, and it's one of the largest pieces of this legislation. If you're watching the Republican messaging, it's pretty clear they think it's great to be able to say the Democrats' proposal is going to cut taxes on all these wealthy coastal millionaires. I don't know that they junk it because there was an effort, actually led by Bernie Sanders and Senator Menendez, to change the SALT provision. I think changing it is more likely. The parental leave and the electric car stuff, I think, is a lot thornier.
How does the White House deal with the broader dynamics, which is there have been several in the last couple of days. You have 30-year high inflation out there that is a drag on families all across America. But just in the last couple of days, there have been a couple of more encouraging economic reports for the White House. But when you talk to people, they seem a little bit nervous to be optimistic, to say anything positive because they're worried about getting thumped by some other factor down the road.
That's right. And this is one of the tricky things for the White House is this balance. Is on the one hand, there are a lot of economic indicators that are good in terms of jobs and salaries and hiring. Things are, in terms of the recovery and reopening, things are moving in the right direction. But inflation is at a 30-year high, and they are really getting killed in the polls. There's a lot of public concern about this. There's a lot of anxiety. And I think part of that is that people really feel that every day, right? When you're buying gas, when you're buying groceries, people really feel the anxiety of inflation. And so the White House is trying to sort of note the positive things and also argue that the infrastructure bill, which has passed, and this social spending bill, if it does, they argue these things will help ease some of these pressures. But obviously, they're not going to ease them in the next couple of weeks. That's a much longer-term prospect.
Right. It's a longer slog for Democrats who have to hope that by the time you get to next spring and next summer, the numbers look better. They're not going to turn better overnight, which gets to the point is they want to get this done by Christmas, meaning pass the House, go to the Senate, most likely have to then come back to the House. Christmas, is that realistic?
Possibly.
With the debt ceiling out there and with keeping the government funded out there?
Running out of money, possibly by the end of next week. All of these deadlines are crashing upon them. Meanwhile, they're trying to pass this massive social spending bill in the midst of all this. And with the Senate and all the question marks over there on whether Manchin will sign on, is December still too soon to move this legislation? That remains to be seen. All of that will be tested in a matter of weeks. So maybe Christmas is possible, but it's really, really a tall order.
We'll know more about what happens in the House late tonight, or perhaps it stretches into tomorrow. Rolling out the red carpet, Virginia Governor-elect Glenn Youngkin gets a big welcome at a gathering of GOP leaders. That's next. Republican governors all gathering in Phoenix right now, and they are celebrating the man about to be their newest addition. The Virginia governor-elect, Glenn Youngkin, was cheered by the Republican crowd at that meeting in Arizona. Meanwhile, though, at this very same meeting, the Trump factor still having much of an impact on discussions about future elections. CNN's Michael Warren reporting Trump supporter and former Georgia Senator David Perdue is considering a challenge to the incumbent Republican governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp. That would be a primary challenge that Trump wants. Michael Warren joins us now live from Phoenix with more. Michael, will David Perdue do it, or is he just being nudged?
Well, he is certainly considering it, I'm told, by several Georgia Republicans. He's trying to make a decision soon. A big question about if he gets in. It's likely that Donald Trump would endorse him because, of course, Donald Trump has made clear throughout this year that he wants to see Brian Kemp lose. He believes Brian Kemp did not do enough to aggressively contradict those election results at the end of 2020. He blames Kemp for his losing Georgia, so he wants to find somebody. He's been struggling. David Perdue will certainly be a solution to that. But I'm also hearing from people close to Kemp that they want to make David Perdue's life a, quote, living hell if Perdue gets in and runs against him in the primary. I'm also hearing here from the RGA that the RGA will back its incumbents who are facing primary elections. So that would include Kemp. So there could be some monetary support here from this group of Republican governors.
Michael Warren, fascinating reporting on the ground in Phoenix. Thank you. Let's bring it into the room now. Again, this gets, we were talking earlier in the show about how the dynamics, history, the president's first midterm election, the other party usually does pretty well. Economic factors right now, the president's polling right now, election's 11 months away. But right now it looks great for Republicans. And then you have stories like this, where you have an incumbent Republican governor, but Trump doesn't like him because he wouldn't help Trump cheat. Michael was being polite. Trump doesn't like him because he wouldn't help Trump cheat. So Trump's trying to find a primary challenger.
Right. And, you have to say this about David Perdue, is he wouldn't be the kind of candidate that, Marjorie Taylor Greene is or Paul Gosar is. He actually has a fair amount of state credibility statewide. So this is not a perfect analog for the fringe elements that we were talking about before, but it is part of this punitive cycle in GOP politics right now. Going after the people who voted for impeachment, going after the people who voted for the infrastructure project, going after the people who did not side with Donald Trump's effort to overthrow the election. And I think it's enormously important that the RGA said it's going to back its incumbents. That's a direct. I mean, they sort of have to, but you could imagine a world in which they looked at Donald Trump and said, "Oh, geez, we don't want to get."
That is a great point to the question of, we talk about how Trump could be messing things up. Are we seeing elements of the party being more willing to stand up to Trump? The RGA says it will back its incumbent. That's normal, but the question is, will normal hold in the age of Trump?
Exactly.
I was mentioning the Republican chairwoman this morning at a breakfast said Biden won, and that she still considers Liz Cheney a Republican. Let the voters of Wyoming deal with that in the primary. Are there some people who are starting to suggest maybe this Trump disruption is too much?
I think we have to see how it plays out. I think there is some testing of where the lines are and where the boundaries are. One thing that is interesting, though, to look at the Virginia race, you mentioned Youngkin being greeted with enthusiasm. He ran an interesting campaign where he maintained support from the former president and was positive about him, but didn't have him campaign in the state, really focused on local issues, really focused on Virginia, and sort of walked this line with Trump. And so it'll be interesting to see if we see some of that as well.
Right, and the fear for Republicans is, in a year in which Republicans should have a wind at their back, if you have a nasty primary in a race for governor, somehow the Democrat, you have dissonance, unhappiness. After that primary, one side or the other is unhappy. Maybe they don't vote in big numbers, and the Democrats could pick up a race that in a normal year they probably shouldn't win.
Right, that would be the hope. But again and again, we see the Trump wing of this party win again and again. But we do see these forces trying to pull back on that, like the Mitch McConnells, if you will, trying to get back to this Youngkin model of saying, see, we can do it without Trump being in our faces all the time, with kind of this revenge tour kind of attitude, kind of dominating the conversation.
It's a fascinating dynamic to watch. The Republican Party just about in every phase is fascinating to watch at the moment. Ahead for us, a surprising new development just in the last few minutes in the deliberations in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. We'll take you back to Kenosha, Wisconsin, just ahead.
Carvana is the easy, no-hassle way to buy your next car. Their shopping experience is 100% online, so you can shop from anywhere. And with thousands of cars to choose from and customized financing, you can find the right car for the right price. Got questions? Carvana has friendly and knowledgeable customer advocates to help you every step of the way. And best of all, you can get your car delivered to your doorstep as soon as next day. So what are you waiting for? Buy your next car 100% online with Carvana. The universe has a sense of humor, especially when it comes to cars. As soon as a warranty expires, things start to break and those repairs are no longer covered. CarShield picks up where your warranty leaves off, with service plans that cover expensive repairs, coverage that could save you thousands of dollars. They pay your favorite mechanic or dealership directly, making the entire process fast and easy. Get a free quote by calling 800-416-6522 or visit carshield.com.
A bizarre twist just moments ago in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, the judge addressing the court about the arrest of a person who was allegedly trying to take photographs of jurors.
I have instructed that no one from MSNBC News will be permitted in this building for the duration of this trial. This is a very serious matter, and I don't know what the ultimate truth of it is.
Let's get straight to CNN's Shimon Prokopez. He's outside the courthouse in Kenosha. Shimon, what do we know?
Yeah, so the judge, I was in the courtroom this morning when all of this was sort of developing. The sheriff's deputies, the deputies came in, there was, the lawyers were in, there were meetings, and then I got word that there was something going on with a media, the concern that someone may have been following jurors or taking photos. So the judge, a short time ago, taking the bench, saying what he said there about someone from MSNBC, perhaps, is what he was told. So now he has banned them from the courtroom. What happens, he says, is that the person was taking photos and that the jurors are driven in a bus. The windows are covered so people can't see them from the outside. And this person, they believe, was taking photos. And so now he said what he said. He's banning MSNBC from the courtroom. We are waiting to hear from MSNBC. We're waiting to see if they'll issue a statement. So we're waiting to find out more. But certainly this judge not taking any risks, any chances. You know, one of the things that he's been really tough on is protecting the jurors and making sure that they're comfortable. Obviously, this would be a pretty stupid move for anyone to do, to try to take photos or follow the jurors in any way.
Shimon Prokopez, grateful for the hustle and live reporting. Bring us back any more information if you get it. Let's discuss this now with our legal analyst, Elliot Williams and Caroline Polisi. Caroline, to you first. It would be stupid, it would be amateur, it would be unprofessional for a member of the media to try to photograph jurors. One would assume the jury's doing its deliberations. Are clown car episodes like this kept separate, I guess, from the jury?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, judges enjoy a wide degree of discretion with respect to how to run their courtrooms, and Judge Schroeder certainly is no exception. He has taken a hard stance here. I think it's a pretty dramatic development that he's ruled just a blanket statement to exclude all MSNBC journalists from the courtroom. You know, always there is a balancing interest with respect to First Amendment access and rights of journalists to cover stories of this nature. So he took all of that into account. Judges are very protective of their jurors. Shimon is absolutely right. And this is really not a laughing matter. It should be taken seriously. And he has been dealing with it seriously, as it should be.
And so I just want to read you, Elliot. These are from the Kenosha Police Department tweets. Last night, a person alleging to be affiliated with a national media outlet was briefly taken into custody, issued several traffic-related citations. Police suspect this person was trying to photograph jurors. The incident is being investigated. No breach of security regarding the jury, nor were any photographs obtained. Investigation remains active and open. So we need to wait to hear definitively from MSNBC, as to whether this was one of their employees. But the basic idea that a judge would take this step because you're at this sensitive phase of deliberation says what?
It's not just a sensitive phase of deliberations. Look, juror safety is very, very significant and very, very important, particularly in a high-profile trial like this. Every judge is going to want to protect his jury. Now, what's significant here is that the judge had made the choice earlier in the trial not to sequester this jury, to completely keep them put away. Judges don't really like to do that. It was pretty hasty to ban an entire news organization and not just this one individual, but it just shows what a serious issue it is. And as Caroline had said, it's just not a laughing matter and to be taken.
No, it's not. If this conduct is true of a member of the media, it's amateur, asinine, and worse. All right, we'll continue to keep on track of that. Thank you both. Ahead for us, a new COVID warning. Hospitalizations are up among those who are vaccinated but have not yet received a booster. Dr. Anthony Fauci says new Israeli data make the case for COVID vaccine booster shots. The question of whether to authorize boosters for all adults is right now before the government, and the CDC director could give the green light as early as tomorrow. In that Israeli data cited by Dr. Fauci, people over the age of 60 who had received booster shots were more than 5 times less likely to get seriously ill from a breakthrough infection than those who had not received a booster. Let's bring in to share her insights and expertise Dr. Megan Ranney, Associate Dean of Public Health at Brown University. Dr. Ranney, as we wait for the CDC Director, Dr. Walensky, to make this decision, nearly a dozen states have already said we're going to get out ahead of the federal government. If you're an adult, you should go out and get a booster shot. Is this necessary and why?
So let me be clear about who absolutely needs to show up and get a booster. It is folks who are age 60 plus or people who are on some sort of immunosuppressant. There is absolutely clear data that those people need that booster in order to avoid hospitalization. For the rest of us, are you wrong to get a booster? No. And I'll be honest, I've gotten mine as a healthcare worker, but it's probably not going to make the difference between hospitalization or not. I think it's almost inevitable at this point that boosters are going to be approved for everyone. And given the degree to which Delta is spreading and then is spreading from folks who've been vaccinated, it's the right thing. But John, the most important thing is to get vaccinated in the first place. The booster is a drop in the bucket. It's that primary vaccine series that makes a big difference.
But to that degree, if you're talking about a booster, you think about it as extra protection, if you will. More than 31.4 million Americans have already gone out to get a booster shot. That's 1 in 6 of fully vaccinated adults. The question, I guess, is this going to be part of our new normal? Do you believe that every 4 months, every 6 months, every 12 months, we're going to have to get a new shot?
So I'm expecting that in future years, we're likely going to see the COVID and flu vaccines get put together. Very different diseases, but both will most likely need some sort of annual shot based on the data that we're seeing, assuming that COVID continues to mutate the way that it has.
Thursday, 1 week from today, is Thanksgiving. And if you look at the cases right now, we're starting to trend back up again, up 21% from 1 month ago, the 7-day average of COVID infections, 87,000 new infections yesterday. A month ago, it was 72,000. Well below last year's horrific winter, Dr. Ranney, but we're starting to trend up again. And if you look at the map, we have 24 states heading in the wrong direction. More new COVID infections now compared to a week ago, 20 holding steady, only 6 in green with fewer infections this week compared to last week. With Thanksgiving a week away, Christmas behind that, does this trend concern you?
It does, and this has been something that I and other public health professionals have been warning about since this summer. We saw that Delta surge in southern states over the summer when folks were in air conditioning indoors. We knew that this was coming as the weather got cold, as people went indoors in the north. And I will highlight again, the spread is not mostly among people who have gotten their 2 shots of the vaccine. It's among people who have not yet been vaccinated. But with that dire warning, I will also say we are in a much better spot than we were a year ago because so many of us have completed that primary vaccine series, and we are not going to fill up the hospitals the way that we did last year. So I'm worried, but not as bad as I was when you talked to me last fall.
Well, we had some very tough conversations last fall, so I'm glad to hear that. I just want to come back to the point you made a minute ago. There are still 10 states where fewer than 50% of the residents have been vaccinated. You see them in the lightest green here. Thanksgiving is coming for all of us, whether you live in a state like Maine, where 72% are vaccinated, or whether you live in West Virginia, the lowest at 42% vaccination. When people gather around the table for Thanksgiving, you're an advocate of rapid testing that morning. Why?
So rapid testing tells you if you are infectious at that moment. It is a wonderful way to make sure that you are not gathering with people who are going to get you sick. Is it perfect? No. But these days, and I'm going to do it for my own family, highly recommend that you stick that swab up your nose, wait the 15 minutes for the result before going to an indoors location with other people from across the country.
If I don't speak to you before then, Dr. Ranney, you have the best Thanksgiving with your family and a safe Thanksgiving with your family. I'm grateful.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you very much. This quick programming note for us: during the 1920s, the Osage people of Oklahoma were some of the richest people in the world. But as Lisa Ling uncovers, the wealth made them a target. Discover the horrific plot carried out to steal Osage land and Osage money. Watch the all-new This Is Life with Lisa Ling, Sunday night, 10 Eastern and Pacific, right here on CNN. Thanks for spending time with us today on Inside Politics. Hope to see you back here this time tomorrow as well. As you know, a very busy news day. A lot of developments in a lot of places. Ana Cabrera picks up our coverage right now. Have a good day.
You know what getting a great night's sleep feels like. Sleep Number knows what it takes to get it. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed is where sleep meets science. It's innovatively designed to help you fall asleep fast and get deep, restorative sleep. By using smart sensing technology, it responds to your movements throughout the night and automatically adjusts the firmness and support to keep you effortlessly comfortable. Go to sleepnumber.com to discover more about how proven quality sleep is life-changing sleep.